I am 98 years old, and I will tell you the risk after 65 that costs people the most. It is not the knees, it is not the heart, it is not even the memory, at least not at first. It is the slow loss of being needed. Most people prepare for the body to slow down. They get the screenings, they downsize the house, they simplify the days. And then, after the retirement party, after the move, after the children stop calling quite as often, something they cannot name begins to thin out. Their footing goes before their hip does. I want to be honest with you. This is not a soft topic. The evidence on purpose is harder than people expect, and the cost of getting this wrong can be measured in years of life and years of mind. By the end of this, you will know what the research actually shows, what to watch for in yourself or someone you love, and what to do today, not someday. There is a study you should know about. It is called the Rush Memory and Aging Project. A researcher named Patricia Boyle and her colleagues followed more than one, older adults, none of whom had dementia at the start, for years. They asked them in plain words whether they had a sense of purpose. Then they watched what happened. The numbers are sober. People in the top tier for purpose were about 40% less likely to die over a 5-year window than people in the bottom tier. They were roughly 2 times more likely to remain free of Alzheimer's disease over that same period. The mechanism, in plain language, is something researchers call cognitive reserve. Think of it as the brain's backup capacity. Purpose appears to keep the wiring active and the connections deep, so that even when the physical signs of disease begin to gather, the symptoms arrive later. I want to be careful here. Purpose does not cure dementia. Nothing on this channel does. What the evidence shows is that purpose appears to delay the day the symptoms arrive, by an average of about 5 years in some analyses. 5 years is not abstract. 5 years is grandchildren learning your name. 5 years is finishing the letter, the garden, the book. 5 years is a life. There is a researcher at UCLA named Steve Cole who studies what happens inside the cell when a person is happy. His work changed how I think about retirement. He found that there are, broadly, 2 kinds of feeling good. The first is pleasure-based. It is the cruise ship model, consumption, leisure, the long vacation, the buffet. The second is meaning-based. It is contribution, usefulness, the slower kind of satisfaction that comes from being part of something. From the inside, the 2 feel almost the same. A good day is a good day. But the cells know the difference. In Cole's studies, meaning-based well-being was associated with lower inflammation in the body, quieter, healthier gene expression. Pleasure-based well-being, when it stood alone, looked at the cellular level the way chronic stress looks. Inflammation up, defense down. Now bring this back to retirement. A life built only around leisure can produce, biologically, the same gene expression pattern as adversity. That is not a thing I would have believed in 1955. The data has made me believe it now. I am not saying rest is the enemy. Rest is necessary. So is enjoyment. The point is narrower and harder. Rest without purpose, year after year, asks something from the body it was not built to give. Then there is the Whitehall 2 study. British researchers followed more than 3 civil servants through and past their retirement years, tracking their cognition before and after the workplace fell away. The findings should be common knowledge by now, and it isn't. Verbal memory, the ability to find the right word, hold a phrase, recall a name, declined faster after retirement. About 38% faster in the years immediately following the last day of work, beyond what age alone explained. The protective effect of complex work disappeared once the work disappeared. The brain had been getting a daily workout it did not know it was getting. Calls, negotiations, schedules, names, problems that needed solving by Friday. Then Friday came and never went away again. I want to name the honest caveat directly, the one good researchers always raise. Some of this signal could be reversed. Some people retire earlier precisely because their minds are already slipping, and we are seeing that, not the retirement itself. The researchers worked hard to account for that. They used pension eligibility ages. They adjusted for prior cognition. The effect held. I have watched this in my own circle for nearly 8 decades. Most decline begins earlier than people think. The cliff is not at 80. The cliff is often around the transition itself. The studies that track mortality around retirement age show something quieter and more painful. There is a small but real bump in male mortality at the moment of leaving the workforce. The same signal in women is much smaller. It is not absent, but it is not the same. The likely reason is structural. The men of this generation often had their identity consolidated almost entirely in the job. They had been given, by the world they grew up in, exactly one acceptable container for their value. Women, even when they worked, tended to carry a wider web. Community, family, the keeping of kin, the small ties that get called nothing and hold everything. When the job goes, the wider web matters. People who had kept many small threads kept their footing. People who had one big thread fell harder. I want to frame this with care, not blame. The men of that era were not weak. They were given one acceptable identity. That is a structural choice, not a personal failing. The lesson for anyone listening, of any age, is the one I would write on the wall. Do not let any single role carry your whole self. Not the job, not even the marriage. After retirement, some older adults become slow, forgetful, withdrawn, low. The most common assumption by family, sometimes by clinicians, is early dementia, and sometimes it is something else, wearing dementia's clothing. There is a condition called pseudodementia. It is late life depression presenting as cognitive decline, slowed thinking, word finding trouble, apathy, disorientation. The two look almost identical from the outside. The difference matters enormously. Depression in this form is often treatable. The cognitive symptoms can lift. People come back. Let me be careful here because this is not anti-doctor. Geriatric depression is genuinely hard to spot. The symptoms overlap. Good clinicians know this and still get it wrong sometimes because the picture really is that confusing. What I am asking is small. If someone you love is being written off as just declining, talk to your doctor and ask gently whether depression has been considered alongside cognitive testing. Ask for both conversations, not one. I have seen the difference this question can make. I have watched people return who were thought to be already gone. Do not let someone you love be written off without that conversation happening. There is a trial I think about often. It is called the Experience Core, designed by Linda Fried at Johns Hopkins. The idea was simple and almost old-fashioned. Take older adults at risk for cognitive decline, place them in elementary schools, and have them help children with reading. About 15 hours a week, steady. Children who needed them. After 2 years, the researchers ran brain imaging. What they found was unusual. Not just a slower rate of decline, which would have been impressive on its own. In some participants, there were small but measurable increases in cortical and hippocampal volume, the parts of the brain that age usually wears down. The brain, given a real reason to show up, behaved differently. I want to translate that without overselling. This is biology responding to use. The brain is a body part. It does what bodies do. It maintains what is asked of it and lets go of what is not. The honest caveat is selection. Healthier people are more likely to volunteer in the first place. Even adjusting for that, the signal is real. Notice what the principle requires. The dose matters, and so does the nature of it. Voluntary, meaningful, social, regular. Those are the 4 words that show up in the studies that work. Not grand, not paid, not productive in the modern sense. Simply you showing up useful on Tuesday. Now here's the paradox that humbled me. The same activity at a different dose has the opposite effect. Round-the-clock spousal caregiving without respite, caring for a husband or wife with advanced dementia, with no help, no break, no one coming in, is associated with sharply higher mortality in the caregiver. Voluntary engagement extends life. Involuntary, unsupported burden shortens it. The lesson is not that purpose is dangerous. The lesson is that purpose at this stage of life works best when it is regular, freely chosen, and shared with others. Heroism is not the model. Stewardship is. I have watched many households erode under unshared burden, and I have also seen people quietly held by a Tuesday phone call for 30 years. I want to say something about a word that has been turned into a slogan. Ikigai. You may have seen the diagram, 4 overlapping circles with one labeled what you can be paid for. That diagram is a Western invention from 2014. It is not Japanese tradition. The original idea is simpler and gentler. A reason to get up in the morning, the garden waits, the grandchild visits, the friend calls. That is the standard. Concrete examples I would actually endorse: tending a garden, reading aloud at a school, calling one neighbor every Tuesday, mentoring someone in a craft you know, being the person who keeps a small group connected, the one who remembers birthdays, who notices when someone has gone quiet. The standard the research supports is not grand. Small, repeatable, social, useful. The body remembers what you repeat. Build the practice now, well before the day the work stops. Let me return to where I started. The most underestimated risk after 65 is not physical. It is the quiet erosion of being needed, and the body keeps the score. What does that mean for you, regardless of your age? Do not wait for retirement to find out who you are without the job. Build the second thread now. The friend you call, the neighbor you check on, the small group you tend, the student you teach, the garden that knows your hands. The next step, made small enough that you can actually take it, pick one weekly act of usefulness to a person, a place, or a craft. 1. Weekly. Repeat it long enough that someone, somewhere, comes to count on you. Let me be honest about what this will not do. It will not guarantee a long life. It will not prevent every illness. It will not make you immune to grief or loss or the failures of the body that come with time. What the evidence shows and what life confirms is that it changes the slope. The decline becomes gentler. The day the symptoms arrive moves further out. The years between now and then carry more weight. Late is not the same as finished. Your future is being practiced now in the small things you choose to repeat or let go. Begin before it becomes regret. So tell me in the comments what your one weekly thread is or what you would like it to be. Subscribe if you want more of these conversations. No urgency, no hype, just the next small choice.